Well, never let it be said that we didn't at least have a crack or a fair bit of time off. We are back. This is the Variety Hour podcast. I know a lot of people have been doubting that we would actually come back. In fact, when I announced yesterday on Twitter that we would be doing a podcast today, one of our long-time listeners immediately replied, fake news, just to be a little bit topical. But we are back. I'm Sergio Paradise, and this bloke over here, he's been holed up like a hermit in a bunker under the White House. It's Titus O'Reilly.
Well, it is good to be back, and we did a few during the lockdown, but I got to say, I found the whole, not just us, but the whole sports media, we were talking about this before we started recording, the kind of desperation to stay relevant and kind of made me just not want to do
and that
talk
whole
about it.
Desperate way or desperation that people in the sports and especially football media to what is now termed create content, which is in the old school term, would just be make up bullshit, basically.
Yeah.
So
did you see, what was your favourite of all the attempts? Because there was, I mean, we'll never have to do another list. Every list has been done.
Every list.
I forget who it was. Someone on Facebook, I think it was Limo, did a list of the best lists.
Well, I was about to say the only list that hasn't been done surely is the best lists.
Still, my favourite was Dermot Brereton did the fattest fit blokes, that's sort of where I kind of went, this is all getting a little bit
the fattest fit blokes,
a little bit too much. And then it was just bizarre, all the stuff that kept happening. And then the linking the Michael Jordan documentary to
yes.
I saw Beck Judd was linked to it at one stage.
Yeah. Now, how did Beck link? Apart from the fact that we have pointed out on occasion too, just how much press Beck gets.
Yeah.
And just the other night, I was flicking around, sort of late in the afternoon, and all of a sudden up comes Beck on postcards, and I thought, gee, you've got to hand it to her.
Well, this one was something about. Oh, I got to confess, I did not read the whole article. Yeah. You'd be so shocked to learn that I'd trailed off. It was something to do with their wedding and some connection. But it was
I did read it, but I've got to say,
know?
I didn't know, and it stuck in my head for, I reckon, about 30 seconds, and it's long gone now.
Yeah.
So,
but there was a lot of what various teams took out of the Michael Jordan documentary.
Yeah, there was that, and then there was plenty of lists of redoing the draft from each year. There was plenty of those.
Lots of those.
The best player to ever wear number 47, which of course was Peter Francis. The best player in every position, but over what decade, over what era, from the AFL era, the pre-AFL era.
And how good was it now that the sport's starting to come back and they got footage of training, is it?
Yeah.
Compared to a nightly sporting bulletin of what footy stars got up to on TikTok.
Yeah.
It was there more. This is where, sometimes you think, I'm becoming a grumpy old man.
Yeah, no, I get that.
This is aging me. But I know, and people would say to me, it's just a bit of fun. Why are you getting annoyed about it? And I'd be like, is it fun? Well, I found it just it was just.
I just found it annoying, most of that. and the thing you might be able to explain to me with TikTok, when they're all busting these sort of dance moves in unison with their kids, and I'm talking about the AFL coaches here, are they working off a screen that they're
following?
They're following and mimicking, or have they just been rehearsed? Has it been choreographed in advance? This is something I don't know, and quite frankly, don't need to know either.
Well, this is where they take you. They drag you down into this world where you start wondering about this stuff and going,
They take you to the gutter and leave you there.
Yeah, and then there was the debate about Max Gawn's haircut.
Yeah, that was fairly recent. That was
Hutchie.
That was Hutchie on Footy Classified last week.
He was a bit annoyed about Max's.
Max has got the blonde mohawk.
If the rest of the Demons played like Max does, they can all get mohawks for all I care.
Exactly, and I think Nathan Jones said words to exactly that effect the next day when somebody said, Hutchie reckons it's not a good look for a captain of a struggling club. And Jonesy actually made that very point that, look, if we all played the same way as Maxie does, they can all look like me.
Basically. I don't think it's going to be the haircut that ever holds Melbourne back. There's a lot of things.
There's been plenty of things.
There's a
over
lot
the
of things to deal with before you get to the haircuts. They come pretty low on the list. There were some weird TikTok videos. I've got to say, the one that was the bizarrest, and I know there was a bit of a backlash, and some people thought it was just a bit of fun, and others thought it was a sexist video, which was Joel Selwood's video where he used his wife as a mop.
He really wanted a Dyson. But was that a TikTok video?
Yeah, and then he deleted it.
Yeah, because people, because it was demeaning to his wife and to women in general.
There was a few reactions. What the two reactions seemed to be, it was demeaning using your wife's head as a mop, and he picked her up upside down, ducked her into the bucket, and then pretended to mop the floor.
Yeah.
Some people saw that as potentially demeaning to women, which you can see that argument. I know that she was a willing participant, and I don't think that was Joel's intention. It was, but it was tone deaf at best. But on the flip side, you had other people going, "It's just a joke. She was a willing participant. They were having a laugh. It's isolation. Why is everyone going on?" I just more put it in the category of just odd.
Yeah, it was a strange one.
It was just the weirdest thing.
And it's the first time I've seen Joel Selwood on camera for a while without ducking.
Well, he was ducking someone else. It just was odd more than anything else. I just thought, this is weird.
Well, it made me think. I thought, okay, it's fairly harmless and nobody really cares. But whose idea was it? His idea or her idea?
I know.
And at what point did they both go? Surely you would think, whether he suggested it or she suggested it, the other one would go, nah, don't do that.
It was also look, the debate, people could argue about whether it was demeaning to women or not. And I can sort of see both arguments in that, it wasn't like he, to our knowledge, forced her to do it. She seemed to, so maybe if they both thought that was funny and did it, then I don't think it is. The look of it's not great on that regard. There's certain things you think where this joke is not demeaning, but it can be perceived as it. On
the other hand, the NRL guys are going,
that's the worst.
Is that the worst you can do?
Yeah.
You call that demeaning to women?
Yeah, that's right.
I'll hold my beer, gal.
It's sort of rookie stuff. It was a bit of but I just kept coming back to it. It was just odd.
Yeah, it was. It was very
totally
strange.
Weird.
And it struck me as sort of odd and strange.
But if they were having a laugh, it wasn't funny.
Yeah, no, it certainly wasn't that funny. But it seemed to me almost a metaphor for how people were sort of stuck in their houses and desperate for something to do.
Yeah.
And that, if you're in a normal state of mind, you wouldn't have done it. This was like ISO crazy kind of gear.
Well, it would have been funny too if then she had have done something, used him as a vacuum cleaner or something. That would have maybe made a bit more sense that it was this, we're going crazy here or something. But instead it was just like, we all have ideas. You don't follow them through to fruition.
It's fun times at the Selwood house tonight.
There was a bunch of fun stuff that happened in the off season. We also had Adelaide were obviously sanctioned for breaking the isolation rules.
Yeah, that was only a couple of weeks ago, but that seems like months ago now.
Well, remember, I think it was Tom Brown that said that they're going to get the book thrown at them. It's going to be they're going to have draft picks taken away.
Yeah, that's right, draft picks.
Everything. But then it's sort of...
There was
Ben Hart just got suspended for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I never got that as being... I even thought to be honest, I thought the suspension even of Ben Hart was sort of like a bit over the top. I mean, the idea of stripping draft... It sounds like they just got their admin wrong a bit and I just didn't think it was that... Yes, they admitted to it, they got told off.
Yeah.
And... I could see that people saying, "Oh, it risks the season coming back and all that," but I don't think it was like a hangable offence.
No, I agree.
Crying
we all like to give Adelaide a clip now and then, but I thought they would have been extremely stiff if they had the book thrown at them.
Well, also if they do have a track record of being poorly run, so it was hardly out of character. These are the guys that brought in the mind experts. So, this was probably low on the list of their bad ideas.
Along with, and somebody asked us yesterday, was Andrew McLeod welcome? Like,
Well, there
did you
was a
read
bit about
that?
him not saying he didn't feel welcome back.
Yeah, he
at
said
the
he
club.
didn't feel welcome back at the Crows. And you've got to say, that is indicative of a poorly run club. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, Andrew McLeod's not a guy who played 12 games in 2 years and
We'd be
you've
up
got to
there with
look him
their
up.
greatest player,
Oh,
wouldn't
he'd
they? Like, if
be-
you're talking about their greatest players ever,
Their best team ever,
but
He'd
there'd
be
be
one of the
Rashido, him, you know, that's,
you know, Hart, you know, Goodwin, Bickley,
yeah,
you know, Tony Modra.
he'd be right up in all the
Yeah.
top tier. Of,
Oh, if you were
know,
picking the greatest Adelaide side of all time, he'd
Yeah.
be one of the first
and he'd
picks.
be arguably, I'm not saying he's their best player ever, but he'd be in the conversation.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
have to say. So that for him, the only player I ever felt not bad for sort of not being close to the club was KB, because he just milked that. Has anyone milked an estrangement more than that?
And I doubt it,
For
because
years and years,
I was about
over
to say
over the pettiest
the
stuff.
estrangement itself was fine, but its longevity.
That's what
is
I mean,
is
like,
what
you know, and just being
took it to another
hurt
level.
over something for so long,
Yeah.
but then kept making a point of it. You know, like it reminded me of when you're having a family Christmas
Yeah,
and there's always like your grandma or something will go, well, I'm not coming then.
Yeah.
You know, and they do it, you know, they are going to end up coming.
yeah.
They're just doing it to sort of,
Yeah.
you know, and
I'm not coming if he's going to be there. You know?
What, your husband?
No, your kids.
And, you know, they just sort of like, but they also, they could fold after 2 minutes and go, all right, I'll come.
Yeah.
But they just hold out until the last minute just to milk it for
Yeah.
all the attention they can
Yeah.
get, you know. So that was Adelaide. Some of the other stuff that happened that was interesting is Jack Stevens got stabbed,
Yeah.
went to hospital, and then we then had no
And wouldn't
feedback on what
Yeah.
happened.
And
I don't know. What do you reckon we have a right to know? This is the funny thing about this, because some people will scream, you know, they have to tell us. Others will say it's private and, you know, his well-being is
it's
the
all-
number one thing.
Well, I mean, there's bits of that. I mean, I don't think, again, this is sort of fence sitting a bit, but I don't think there's a harsh black and white answer to that. I mean, you've got to say, though, being stabbed is in your upper level of, you know, an out of season injury. You know, it's not like,
as an
I mean, you
incident.
hear, okay, he got into a punch on when they were pissed at a pub one night. Well, then you sort of have to explain it all. Getting stabbed, you've got to wonder, from the club's point of view, they obviously, I'm sure they know a lot more about it than we, the general public, do.
Yeah.
But from the club's point of view, they would need to know, because, you know, this cuts through to, you know, his state of mind and what's going on.
Well,
But as-
a player
but-
refusing to help police and all that starts to become it's not a nothing story.
Exactly. And so, look, I think everyone would like to know that, because the less light that they shine upon it, or Jack himself shines upon it, just leads more to the general public and idiots like us to speculate.
Do you
know?
think the Dean Laidley incident with the police leaking that photo has made everyone a bit gun shy about both from police leaking information
Yeah,
of what's going on?
Possibly,
to-
but that incident in itself was so, you know, out of the blue and unpredictable, as far as we all know. But look, I just assume about the Jack Stephen thing, and of course I don't know anything, but I just assume there must be a personal reason or an embarrassing reason or something that he's not talking, and that's his right. I think if you know, I'm the CEO of Geelong or the coach of Geelong, I'd be saying, Jack, mate, come clean, or you're playing in the reserves.
It falls on this thing for me, though, where, and this is a broader issue than Stevens, but it sort of falls into this thing, right, which has happened over the last few years, which is there's this thing about mental health of players, which I'm not poo-pooing, like there's serious things about that, but it seems to me it often strays into there's a balance you're trying to get right in this, in that one, it stems from incidents like the Jack Stevens, and you've had a bunch of these over the years of varying from breakups to whatever.
Dane Beams in the last 12 months.
All this sort of stuff. So there's this element of, where do you get the balance right of, yes, there are mental health and the welfare of players is important, blah, 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 that side of argument. And the other side of the argument, though, is, and it gets down to even critiquing, like if players say, oh, well, people are mean because they didn't play well on the weekend. And you get to a point where you kind of go, yes, there's two things happening here that are bumping up against each other. One is the mental health player welfare issue, but the second is these players play a competitive sport at the highest level. And with that comes the reason they're on so much money and they have a profile that they can then monetize and be in the media. And I know not all of them do, but a lot of them do. They have all these upsides of it. And a lot of it comes from the fact that these clubs are member owned. So we all own the club. So there is some element of right of us to know sometimes what's going on within the club. It's people kind of act like fans are annoying and we're demanding too much. But I'm a little bit like, not everything can be mental health protection.
Yeah.
At some point, and I'll get probably caned for saying this, but at some point you got to go, but if you don't want that, that job has that level of scrutiny.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes too far. Sometimes we need to protect people and all that sort of stuff. I see the one side of that argument, but nothing ever gets represented the other side, which is mental health and player welfare can't just be a blanket protection on them never saying anything, never doing anything, and no one can ever say anything negative.
Oh, absolutely. Because clubs traditionally for years, they cover things up and they lie to the press and they lie to their fans, whether it's just something as harmless as a calf injury that's 2 weeks and they say, no, he'll be right, in next week.
But every job has stuff people don't like about the job, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's paperwork or whatever. With playing at an elite sport level, you get the hero status and all these sort of benefits that flow from that. But on the other side, you get the scrutiny. I don't see how you can completely decouple the two from each other. And I don't think just saying everything is a mental health issue.
I've always said...
Because I think it gets used sometimes. I don't know with the Jack Stevens one because I don't know what happened. Yeah. But I think, and I know he has had issues, but I think sometimes it's also just used now as this get out of jail, so to speak, free, where it's like, and I'm like, we're paying for these people.
Oh, look, I've always said, with AFL footballers or any, top level professional athlete, if you don't like the scrutiny, go and play in the Ammos.
Yeah, or go and play table tennis at the top level or something. Yeah. Go play something that no one's going to come out and watch.
Yeah, sure. You're not going to get paid $500,000 a year, but you're not going to get asked questions that you might consider uncomfortable either.
Well, and also I found it really interesting that the players' position, and it's not a uniform position. I know there's 700-800 players, and they don't all think the same. But the Players Association and various players represented over the coronavirus pay cuts.
Yeah,
how out of touch some of them really seemed. And I know some of them had tough times in that, but they didn't outright all lose their jobs like some people at clubs did, and a lot of the public did, But they
a lot of people who work at the AFL have.
Yeah, and I know it's annoying that some of them for a few months might have to go into hubs and all this sort of stuff and that, but I mean, you're lucky to have a job. Some people, I know a heap of people that would jump at that because they have to keep their families fed. It's not like they'll miss seeing their families, but I mean, what do they think fly in, fly out workers do all the time?
Exactly.
And heaps of people
and some of them are complaining that they're going to have to take a 50% pay cut for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how Patrick Dangerfield could survive on $600,000 a year, instead of 1.2 mil.
It just I don't know. I mean, that's a bit of a rant from me, but I do just find it all a bit odd. Some of the
and I reckon, we'll probably be able to discuss this more next week. So I think it's about to blow up again, the fight between the Players Association and the AFL on the ongoing for next season, with the cutting of lists or the cutting of pay packets for players who are already contracted, and that will be different to the collective bargaining agreement they agreed to a couple of years ago.
Well, my view is coronavirus hasn't necessarily, I think, introduced anything new, but what it has is it's sped up by a couple of years, if 2 to 5 years, what was a trend anyway, which was the declining media revenue going to TV and radio
and professional
like
sport,
that.
basically.
Therefore, following on from that, because of the splintering of media and the fact mostly revenue now, advertising revenue goes to Facebook and Google. You're seeing media being cut. That leads to cuts to sports rights, which will lead to cuts. It just means that the numbers that used to exist no longer make sense anymore. And for Foxtel's going to die. You're going to end up in a world where I reckon Seven might end up being able to afford with someone like a KO instead of, I know they're owned by Foxtel, but we'll replace it and we'll be paying a competition like the AFL. Maybe to make the numbers work of what they can get from subscribers and advertisers, it might be half what they used to get. It might be 3/4. I don't know, but it will be a lot less. It will be definitely probably less. And that means you've got to adjust.
And it might be that footy in 3 years' time will only be able to be seen on Netflix or Google or Facebook or something.
Yeah, and the numbers that a Netflix or a Google or a
and they're not going to pay $1 billion up front.
Well, no one is though, because you can't get the return that
it'll come back to how many subscribers and like the AFL will go, gee, the more subscribers we have, we might get 200 million this year.
Yeah,
or you might not.
And it will mean you'll have to adjust how much it costs to run the league to what you're getting in. I mean, it's simple business. If your revenue declines significantly, your business is going to decline in size. It's not complex for anyone to understand.
And the clubs,
that's what's happened.
People I think you're right. It's just accelerated what was inevitable down the track. And we've seen it with rugby union and the A-League and what have you. The revenues have just disappeared.
Well, the lower down ones are just going to the ones that were sort of on the cusp of not being semi-amateur almost, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, just in there. Some of them, I think, are going to go down to that, go down to almost be semi-amateur or amateur sports because they just won't be able to sustain.
Yeah, you look at the NBL, say, that's been on a sort of growth spurt for the last couple of years with audiences and stuff like that. They're going to cop it fairly hard.
But all sport bodies have sort of been like drunken sailors. Like the money's been pouring in. I think it will be more, not that we can't go back to where we were. I think more people will look back and go, God, remember when they had so much money, they did things like China and going to New York to train before going on a game in Ireland, and when they launched poured hundreds of millions into 2 new teams.
And the NRL spending $500,000 a day.
Yeah,
which still boggles my mind, I've got to say.
That was just on lawsuits. But you know what I mean? I think we'll look back and go, like that photo, there's that classic photo of when Essendon have got like something like 20 people in their coach's box.
Yeah.
And you just look at that and go, will we ever get back to that? Or will that be looked at, in 100 years' time, will people look back at it and go,
it'll be a
remember when they had this?
Remember when they had a forward entries coach? Not a forward line coach, but a guy who's specifically there to, coach them in forward entries. And
didn't it work brilliantly for Essendon having that many coaches? It just paid off enormously.
Although I'll tell you what Melbourne could do with a forward entries coach.
Just that. Just that. The other one that was came up after the Jack 7 one is the Jordan De Goey.
Yeah, what did he do? He was driving unlicensed.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that is Eddie Maguire had just gone after Geelong.
Yeah.
Now, just on Eddie, is there anyone Eddie's not fighting with at the moment? Like if I had to nominate someone who's really not handling isolation well,
President of China, has he gone head to head with him yet?
Right. But he's battling.
Well, Eddie's had to cancel his Tiananmen Square, commemoration.
He went Geelong for Jack Stevens, not really, and then said Carter had their CEO Colin Carter had the biggest conflicts of interest ever from going from the AFL Commission back to Geelong. Now, Eddie lecturing people on conflicts of interest. Well, I mean, even if Eddie's you were the biggest Eddie fan, that has long been his biggest weakness.
And he's been a part of was it a committee? What did they call it? This working party at the AFL to decide how footy was going to get back this year. In what regard?
Yeah.
So Eddie is, from the top down. I mean, Eddie's got his fingers in every pie that's got AFL printed on the wrapper.
Oh, he once said it wasn't a conflict of interest; it was a convergence of interests.
Oh, there you go. That's a nice piece of semantics for you. But yeah, Eddie's been picking fights left, right, and centre at the moment.
He's also fighting with Athletics Australia.
Oh yeah,
because there was that fight over like some of their athletes were using
kicked off the
Lexus Centre oval, and he went absolutely off tap on them.
Yeah,
it's the you know what Eddie does really well, even if he's right.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's all the time, but sometimes he is. If you talk that much, you'll sometimes be right.
Yeah.
He if there's any criticism, the disproportionate response.
Yeah.
It's like he watched The Untouchables a few too many times. They put one of yours in hospital, you put one of theirs in the morgue. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's such a brutal.
It always strikes me as that old line about don't take a knife to a gunfight.
Yeah.
You walk into Eddie's house with a gun.
Yeah,
and he'll have an anti-aircraft tank in the backyard.
It is amazing though. Like he got really angry with Athletics Australia and started saying, "Well, your sport's been ruined because you're all drug cheats."
Yeah.
And all this. Like, whoa,
a generation of systemic drug cheating.
Yeah. Which I mean, he's not necessarily even wrong about that, but it's like for a couple of athletes being on your ground,
and
you have to you shoo them off,
and
then But they went the conflict of interest too because he was on Athletics Australia board while they were also negotiating moving them out of there so Collingwood could go into the Lexus Centre.
All this stuff that we've now just been discussing for the last 15 minutes just reinforces to me, can we just start playing the game again? I know that happens next week, but geez, I'm looking forward to it.
You would have seen Eddie more than Gillon McLachlan during the lockdown. He's put himself out there.
The spokesperson for the AFL, basically.
I don't know if they've... I reckon they've just let him go. He's a great distraction.
Yeah.
But they can sort of be at arm's length.
Yeah.
And anything he says, if it goes wrong, they go, well, that's Eddie saying that, not us.
Yeah.
He's
not speaking on behalf of us. Even though he may well be explaining a lot of
He's really picked up the thing. Nick Kyrgios confessed to sleeping with fans on a regular basis. I think he was doing an Instagram Q&A or something where he admitted this. A few people said this, and I was glad because I kind of misread the headline too. Yeah. I thought he was saying he slept like with the fan on. I genuinely did because I just skimmed it. And I was like, why is that news? But in the world where Beck Judd is constantly a story.
Well, exactly. I mean,
but then I read that he's actually sleeping with...
He sleeps with tennis fans.
Which is the shocking bit there that he has fans?
Well, the shocking bit, there's that, of course. The fact that he does deliberately sleep with tennis fans who, let's be honest, tennis fans dress like tennis players when they go watch the tennis. You go to see the Australian Open and every bloke looks like he's dressed just Roger Federer's just done a hamstring. I'll put my hand up. I can go straight onto the court and play.
But do you think this explains why Nick always looks so tired on the court? Or so disinterested?
Yeah, I think it explains his disinterest a lot of the time.
He's just exhausted.
But but to be fair, he's being honest. I mean, in that he's brought that sort of rock and roll groupie thing.
Yeah.
To tennis and to sport, and
if only he brought winning to the sport, because that's kind of what
he's out there for.
Like his rankings dropped significantly. He's not getting any younger.
Yeah.
Like he's getting into Philippoussis territory of a great talent that never achieved anything basically.
And Philippoussis won the US Open. Remember?
Yeah.
But so he still won.
I barely remember.
Yeah, but he still won, Grand Slam ahead of old Nick.
Yeah.
At this point,
and Nick is arguably a lot more talented than Philippoussis ever was. So it's kind of amazing about that.
I'd like to track down Philippoussis and ask him how many of the fans he slept with.
Oh, it would have been a lot.
I'd be plenty. They were all pretty good at the caper.
I don't think this story of Nick's I don't mind him saying it, in terms of being honest and everything, but when Boris Becker did, I mean, none of these.
Oh, Boris Becker, that's right, in the
janitor's closet in a restaurant.
At a restaurant in Germany.
Yeah.
Who hasn't done that?
I haven't been to Germany. So, the other thing that came back with this week is they're starting to the NRL are using cutouts in the stands.
That's right.
Now, this has been happening around the world. So, like they've been putting
I think this is a
mannequins
pretty
and
clever
things.
idea to a degree.
Yeah, to a degree. So, in other countries, like Korea with their soccer comp, they had mannequins in their stands to sort of make it look a bit like a crowd. One club discovered that instead of being mannequins, the supplier had sent them sex dolls instead of spectators.
Who was at the Korean soccer club?
Yeah.
Whose job was it to blow them up?
Who was the one that noticed it?
Hey,
too?
Tom, can you blow up all those sex dolls and just put them up in Bay Field 14 for us?
Who was the one that went, these are sex dolls? Everyone went, how do you know? They looked surprised the whole game. So apparently the supplier blamed the club and the club blamed the supplier.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the one. But the NRL had ones. There were two here that were interesting. One, it was a Matty John show, which was a comedy bit. So this wasn't
This didn't actually happen in the game.
So they put a picture of Hitler as one of the cutouts in the crowd. More terrifying, it was next to a cutout of Richard Wilkins.
Yeah, that was the thing that caught my attention.
I was yelling at the TV, careful, Adolf, you'll get coronavirus.
And let's be honest, coronavirus is the least infectious thing you could get from Richard Wilkins. Trust me.
People said here, people were pointing out this was in a very bad taste. I was like, well, you're watching the Matty John show.
Yeah.
I mean, this is exactly what I'd expect the Matty Johns show to do. Matty Johns offered an apology.
Yeah.
Sorry if anyone's been offended by me having Adolf Hitler in my audience.
Look, the guy, and I'm assuming it's a guy, who really should get a whack for that Matty Johns thing is the producer who's gone, tell you what we'll do. Let's just Photoshop in a picture of Adolf Hitler. And this all came about because, people, I think for $15 or $20.
$22.
Yeah. And you upload a picture of yourself. They print it out and put it up in the stand, which is a good way for
and
fans
people have been
to
doing
stay
their dogs
involved
and things like that.
And the other one they had in was Harold Shipman.
Well, this was a real one. This was a real one. This was on Matty John's bit. Then it was discovered that who's arguably the biggest serial killer in British history.
250
he was a doctor.
He was a doctor.
Mm.
Yeah, and he killed 250 of his patients.
Yeah.
And you got to hand it to him.
And not by accident. He just wasn't a really bad doctor.
The Poms don't win many things anymore, but 250 is not a bad score.
So someone uploaded the photo of him and they printed it out, put it on a cupboard, and so he's in the middle of the thing.
Which I reckon is actually a very clever prank because the printers or whoever it is at the footy club, not many people are going to go, oh, who's it? That old guy with the glasses? That's Harold Shipman, the world's worst serial killer.
I know what you mean. It's not like they picked Ted Bundy or Charles
Adolf
Manson
Hitler.
or something. But it's not someone that everyone would go,
yeah.
Well, that's very obviously
I thought that was
Stalin.
Pretty funny and pretty clever myself.
Well, it is. It's
unless you're one of the relatives of these 250 victims.
Well, yeah, no, it's both shocking in one way, but it's a perfect way to show the flaws in the system.
Yeah, true.
So, that was kind of an interesting one. So the NRL, coming back beautifully.
Yeah.
They did come back on time for what they basically said, which was amazing.
Well, what do you make of Peter V'landys?
I think the thing about it, like, he's always been, regardless of what you think of him, he's a man of action. He does stuff, right? So, like, and he doesn't mind crashing through. So, like, the Melbourne establishment got very upset that he was challenging the Spring Carnival being basically a Melbourne thing. And they were sort of like, how dare he challenge Melbourne's right to be a preeminent Spring Carnival? That
says as much about the doughy Melbourne establishment as it does.
It does.
V'landys,
it sort of says, well, it's not his job to promote the Victorian Racing Carnival. It's his job to boost
the Sydney Carnival. Sydney racing.
Look, the key bit with him is, like, one, he does get things done. He does do all this stuff. I do find it funny. He kind of makes out like this is all a burden on him while taking on all these things, and
And he loves it. He loves the thrill of the fight and the
yeah,
battle.
that's right. So I think that's kind of all interesting. But what will be interesting is they've renegotiated the TV deal. And
Yeah.
I haven't seen any, and I could have just missed this, but when they first announced it, they didn't announce a lot of figures around.
No,
And that's going to be the really interesting thing. Like,
the implication's been though that, and again, I don't think they've released the actual numbers, but the figures that are being bandied about sounds once again like he might have pulled off a bit of a masterstroke here.
yeah, others
When
have said it
3
might-
weeks ago, Channel 9 are bagging the NRL, and they don't want to have a bone to pick with them. And he seems like
It will be for less money, though. So what will be interesting is, has he locked them in when the market's at the bottom to give them the financial security they had to have? If the market ticks up faster and the recovery's better, and the AFL then in a few years when heirs is due negotiates
much
something a
higher.
magnitude of,
Yeah.
and is suddenly able to massively outspend. They've always had a bit more money, but suddenly can actually massively outspend the NRL.
But
strategically long term.
yeah.
But
At this point, you take what you can get to a degree.
well, the NRL was so stuffed
Mm.
financially. They just needed some level of money. So I don't know. It's sort of going to be interesting. What do you reckon they're going to? So we can talk about footy's actually coming back, which is pretty exciting.
It is.
Unfortunately, the red carpet at the Brownlow's been cancelled, which I know you are.
It is a shame. I know Beck Judd will be shattered about this.
There's no thought
They've cancelled Judd Chella already this year.
I know. That's the hardest bit.
Yeah.
I've finally deleted that out of my diary.
Once again, we're going to have to put those costumes on hold.
What about Surge Chella? When's that happening? It's just a slab of Corona and a plate of and a tray of Cabana and cheese. Do you think we're going to have that? Do you think the 16-minute quarters and 90 rotations that the AFL are going to bring in now that we're back?
Mm.
I was pretty happy to see the AFL come out and say this is just for this year, that we are not doing it at all next year, because I just thought this is going to be the thin end of the wedge. They'll do.
I'm still a bit concerned about that.
It's not like I completely, because I don't completely relax, but I look at it and go, I could see the AFL like never waste a good crisis. Going, all right, night grand final, shorter quarters,
Yep.
and then next
Less
year,
rotations.
oh, that works so
Not
well.
as many on the bench.
Yeah, and then
Save
next
money.
year they go, oh, look at this, it works so well. The only thing I think is they're going to have trouble with is reducing quarters. And it's rare that Channel 7's wants line up with the fans' wants.
Yeah.
But I think, why would you, if you're a TV station, go, well, let's have less?
Yeah, that's what I can't quite work out.
Can we run less ads?
Yeah, less chances of a goal being kicked means less ad breaks.
Yeah.
It seems strange.
And so I can't see them wanting to do that. I'd say
No.
that, they're saying, well, we paid for. It's a bit like you say, can I have a 1.25 litre of Coke? And you
Yeah.
pay for it. And then they go, well, here's the 600 mil one.
Yeah.
And you go, well, hang on.
Got a
They
hand-
go, oh, it'll be more exciting for
You've got
you.
a handful of ice with it. Don't worry about that,
Carlton have said that supporters are going to have the names on the back of jumpers. Did you see this?
Yeah, this is a thing I think, again, they're just going to bring in to try and, give supporters a chance to be involved, even though they won't be able to attend the games. And if you pay a certain amount, they'll put, your name on the back of your jumper. So
Yeah.
can you get your name changed by deed poll to I hate Carlton? We'll pay the money to have it on the back of Cripps's jumper.
It's a good idea, actually. I wonder how much trouble they would have to be. They'd have to be doing better than. Well, you could try Harold Shipman.
Yeah. I don't think Adolf Hitler would get across the line.
Well, there's always those ones. Someone will sneak something in, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Now we're getting up to we're actually going to have footy next week.
I know.
What do you reckon of the crowd noise?
Well, I reckon it's one of those things that on paper sounds.
Did you watch it on the NRL?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I didn't mind it because they. The thing about the first round of the AFL, without any, it was jarring to watch I found,
Yeah.
were without anything there. And because I was thinking at the time, could they have some crowd noise? Would they have some music?
A bit like being at a party and there's no music.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, and then you put music on, you notice the absolute difference in the atmosphere.
And then you get some idiot trying to dance like Peter Garrett when a Midnight Oil song comes on. But look, I didn't mind it with the NRL, and they, I thought I think because Channel 9 and Foxtel, of course, but they did it technically pretty well.
I was surprised at how well. I mean, there were moments where it wasn't great or something, but overall it worked way better than I thought. Like it's one of those ones that works better in reality.
I was pleasantly surprised, I got to say.
They were smart in that it wasn't too over the top.
Yeah.
It was just they'd turn it up when it got a bit exciting. They'd turn it down. So it just provided a bit of.
And they altered some of the camera angles a bit to make it, the viewers see less empty seats.
Yeah.
Which is probably a bit easier to do with the NRL purely because of the size of the ground and the configuration, the rectangular ground.
So they've announced all the first round. We kick off on Thursday, June 11th, Collingwood, Richmond. Good to see Collingwood getting a chance at a blockbuster. Nice of them to be looked after. Then we got Friday night, we got Geelong versus Hawthorn.
And now, again, which should be a pretty good game.
Brisbane, Freo.
Yeah, that's what, Saturday, Arvo?
Saturday. Carlton, Melbourne.
Yeah.
Port versus Adelaide. Now, I think that's going to be in Adelaide now.
Yeah, it is.
Because the umpires have been given the green light to cross the border. They're about the only people, apart from truck drivers, that can. Like they needed more sort of incentive to believe they're special. I would actually vote for any government that kept the borders closed to Razor Ray Chamberlain.
or no, let him into the state and then quarantine him for 6 months.
That's a good idea. Fake a positive test for it. Gold Coast take on West Coast up on the Gold Coast. It's, where the Eagles are based. Nice to have an AFL club finally on the Gold Coast. And we've got GWS versus North, Sydney versus Essendon, St Kilda versus the Bulldogs. I mean, analysis of the season now is it the most pointless thing ever? Because we got no idea how these people are all going to perform.
We don't know how they're going to handle the hubs and all that sort of. We actually got a question on this yesterday from Shane Brennan, who said, "Why should hub players on the Gold Coast be allowed extravagant luxuries like toasters and NutriBullets when other players miss out on them?"
Well, I'm assuming in others they just are in their own homes and things like that, aren't they? They also asked for PlayStations. Did you see that?
Of course they did.
So it all look,
I noticed they didn't request any AFL PlayStation games.
That's right. But what do you think they're going to? I don't know. Like, there is a question of, who's got the money to fork out for all that stuff? Like currently, like if you're looking at it going, we've had to sack 3/4 of our support staff, but here's a NutriBullet and brand new PlayStation, and like it's not a good look.
The first NutriBullet to end up in a spa, it'll be over for everybody.
You'll actually be able to go to a pub and watch these games.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Look, as I said before, I'm just desperate to get back and looking forward to watching and I'll watch every game from now on.
Oh, yeah.
Religiously.
What else are we going to do?
Well, exactly. Well, what else do we do at any time?
We should add that I know there's a lot going on in America and all this, but one story that cut through all of that because of its importance and good timing of them to do it too is Mia Favolis finally spoke out about splitting up with Daniel Rioli.
Yeah.
And given some thoughts about it.
Did you read what she said?
Yeah, I did. I was fascinated.
Did you understand a word of it?
No.
I saw her main sort of statement was the hardest decision he had to make was the decision itself to make a decision.
Decision is making a decision, she said.
Right.
Which is, I mean, I'm going to get that tattooed on me.
Well, but get it tattooed properly, and that is with a spelling mistake in there.
She also said you have to hope that your best days are ahead of you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you'd want to when you're like 20-something, like that your best days. Like you and I know they're not.
No, we know the best days are long gone.
Well, there were any.
But when you're 20, surely you've got to have a bit more optimism than that. It's all over for me now.
Yeah.
I've slept with a premiership player it's all downhill from
Yeah,
here.
well, absolutely, it
Yeah.
is. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I've always said. So we're almost back. So we're almost back to actual games.
Yeah,
So
I
you
know.
and I next week we'll be actually doing proper previews and
Yeah, exactly.
things
And
like that. It's going to be amazing. We might have actual sport to talk about.
oh, exactly. And for those people who did listen, because we did do a couple of these sort of remotely on the Zoom,
Yeah.
and they didn't sound that flash, was pointed out to us.
Well, you sounded like you were, being held captive by
Well,
Al Qaeda or something.
Well, I to be honest, I was broadcasting from the boot of Bomber Thompson's car at the time,
That was the strangest story.
wasn't it? Just
If people didn't read that, he got accused of someone saw him put someone in the boot of his car and speed off. Yet he denied it was true at all and said he and a friend went for
I just mucking
coffee or
around.
something, and they didn't. He said I couldn't fit my mate in the boot of my car if I wanted to,
Yeah.
which made me lead to the question: how do you know that?
Well, and the drive-ins are all closed. They weren't trying to sneak somebody in
It was a bit
to
like
see the Blues Brothers.
You can't do that in that car. I'd take the other car if I was going to kidnap someone. But Bomber Thompson has entered that place in the world where you read that story
Yeah.
and your first thought is, well, this couldn't be true.
Yeah.
Your first thought is, oh, right, Bomber's done that.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
only when you read on he denies it, you go, well, maybe he didn't, I don't know. But you're still thinking it could be true.
Could be true.
Yeah.
He's in the Twilight Zone now.
Yeah, it's anything that I read about Bomber, I'm like, yeah, that would be right. On that note, I'm going to go put you in the boot of the car.
We'll see you next week.